What number are we on? You know, I started the day recounting, I think it was today, there are different types of crimes that happen in society. One of the things that those who watch this that always upset me was when people in their official capacity, meaning the example of my friend that got beat up by a cop, everybody knew it, everybody knew it. And then the cops knew, oh, we're not going to get one of our own guys, and they kind of made fun, like, oh yeah, we got, okay. Now, when you solicit, the one thing I said I didn't want to mention about the Mauricio Celis earlier on, he has all types of money laundering and all these types of things going on. And Judge Benalis, according to Valdez and everybody, he was going out of his way to give special treatment. Some felt they were bribery or whatever, but that was in a regular paper. The thing that's embarrassing was he was chasing a naked woman down the street. He had a robe on, and he was holding out a badge. Now, the badge might have been like something from Mexico, whatever. And so he got charged with putting himself out as a peace officer, pretending to be a cop or a lawyer or whatever. You see? This is the man that Judge Benalis has been associated with, and this man is facing money laundering, and somehow the system here has managed to get these charges dropped slowly but surely. We've had a few instances over the years where people and even here, like had vehicles with cop lights on them and pulled people over, and this has happened across the country, soliciting sexual favors and making it known that they were people in positions of authority. And of course, I just told you what the man that's associated with Benalis, the thing I didn't want to mention earlier. So, what you would have, first, people think the car wreck thing is a silly thing. What you saw in that was people making statements, and what they did when he got away with those things, and even the Calder Times trying to justify. Look, you've got to see through stuff. The whole thing on that speed limit being 6 miles over. Look, that's only in a normal going down the highway, and you're doing 76 and it's 70. But when you're involved in a second incident causing serious bodily injury. Now, if a person has a history of soliciting prostitutes, that also is considered a crime. And if a person makes known, like holding a badge, like Celis, and saying to a naked woman, stop, because I have a particular authority over you. And people have pretended, like I said, they pulled women over, pretending to be officers and rape those women. So what you then have would be like official oppression going on. And if people think they did favors for friends of theirs and said, well, we let certain things go on. I mentioned earlier that there were a lot of, some of my friends did certain acts with people in authority. Sexual acts with people in authority. And even though I never was, and that was well known, to the point where even the person in authority said to one of my other friends, is John going to say something that I might be a particular sexual orientational? And my friend said, no, John's not like that, which I'm not. Like, I don't say, oh, he's gay or this or that. But the other thing that bothered me in those things was if you have an authority over a person, like your school teacher, there are laws actually against having any relationship with people under you. Because it's you never know if it's, the pressure. That's why you have that supposedly in the workplace environment, the whole Bill Clinton thing and Monica Lewinsky. So now you first of all, if you think you do favors for people and some of those things go on for long periods of time, you victimize some of those people. The girls I told you that I know, and I know for many years, girls that have been, most of the girls that have drug problems, not all of them, but most of them have done prostitution over time, because that's the way it is. None of them like doing that, for the most part. For the most part, they don't like doing that. It's addiction that causes them to do it. And anybody that thought they did favors for anybody that was in the official capacity said, oh, this happened to... And you do no service to anybody. I actually don't know if Benyales is still on the bench. And maybe some of you are thinking, he maybe, I don't know if he's, I'm not searching. I was looking for those cases. And I know recently I just saw that thing where they hung up his portrait. Maybe he stepped down from the bench. Maybe he's thinking, oh, when's he going to, I have not checked. But maybe it was intended that the public would realize. I don't know. I think he's still a judge, actually. And some of the things I read, look, the things I read, comments about him, people that had dealings with him, the thing that upset a lot of those people that were writing was they seemed to know that he was getting away with very serious stuff, all with the knowledge of the public. And the people, if people solicit prostitutes, those ladies are victims. And I understand that men that do it are also in a way, you know, like it's addiction or a sin. But you don't do favors, and you continue to let those people get victimized. And also that might be also play a role in why people in those positions are so hard on others that solicited prostitutes and appeared before their court and said, you went to see a prostitute. Sir, busted? I'm making you a sex offender. Do you know, in many cases, if people got busted for that, they went on. Judges had the power. This judge went out of his way not only to do things like that, but then he gained notoriety by making them put on the bumper stickers. I did reread that. And put signs. That might have played a role in why. I think this county and this city is so dysfunctional. And I believe, I don't know if the judge is still, and I'm not going to look. If he's still on the bench, he needs to immediately step down. But all the stuff we discussed, it shows you how the system here operates. I had friends of mine on the street that illegal things were done to them. And they thought, okay, it's not going to happen to me anymore by people in authority. And then when it became known to those in authority, other cops, it was like, are you kidding? You're lucky we don't allow it to happen right now to you, homeless person. What a disgrace this county is. What a disgrace. What a disgrace. And some of those friends of mine died, but not all of them. And the other ones that had those instances, none of them have tried to, I've heard some of them say things like, I had to forgive that cop, John. My homeless friends on the street, that later said, and some cop, a particular officer went to them and said, do me a favor and go talk to John. People that were victimized by him. And they were like, okay, because I know they did that. And so when I see like the Benyales, and then I see the Times, Color Times, doing such a disgraceful thing, I used to think maybe the media could be helpful in advocating. And I seen them in their ignorance, say, well, it was only a six limit. The second offense seriously maimed a person. Seriously. Injured two people, not a first-time offense. And then they covered like that. They've lost all. They don't have moral authority. The church has moral authority. That's where moral authority is. When I was coming back, right when I came back into town, I was going slow. I wasn't speeding. There's a lot of traffic. But right when I went past the courthouse area, but on from the road I was on before to a road we call Crosstown Expressway. But there was a red F-150 truck. He almost ran right into me, and I wasn't speeding. He didn't see me, and I wasn't changing lanes. I was in the middle lane. There's a lot of traffic in that particular, and he didn't see me, and so I really had to swerve into the other lane, and if I was going real fast, I was doing about 55. So I hit the horn, and I know he didn't see me, and he almost caused a wreck. And I know people would have thought, oh, Jones. No, I was actually driving well. And then in front of us, I stayed behind him until I was going to get on the turn that takes you into SPID, another big turn. There was like a big truck. And he wasn't sure in the last minute you could keep going straight on the extension of Crosstown, which is a new extension, 5 years now, towards Church Unlimited. But he didn't know, and the truck the last minute also turned to the right to go on a turn that takes you into Padre Island. And another wreck almost happened. It was nothing big to say except because of the instances we have had the last few years where bicyclists, they made a big thing about the injury of pedestrians and how society has taken it lightly. Meaning, in the past, if somebody, which has happened a lot, if somebody accidentally hit a pedestrian or a bicyclist, oftentimes there used to be no penalties unless there was something like, they went way out of the road or something. Oftentimes it was just though you were considered, but now they're taking it serious, meaning it has nothing to do with drinking or speeding or nothing. If you simply leave the right of way and hit that cyclist, they're charging first time. And that plays into all that we've discussed. I honestly believe that we are tremendously corrupt and dysfunctional within this city and within this county. And you might say, but John, you're not helping us by posting all these things. I get mad when I see some of the people that felt like maybe somebody let them know. I'm a judge. Or I'm a cop, and people that had to service them sometimes thought, oh, I don't want this particular customer anymore. But they didn't hide who they were. They made it known because I'm a cop or whatever, and maybe people thought, oh, and that's happened a lot. And I think it's a disgrace that those two lady judges just honored this man. And whether all those other things, which I can't, public records, they're not going to release public records, but arrest records are indeed public. But it's a person said. There were people that said certain things. And then, of course, I have some friends that I mentioned. I'm glad these are titled Corruption. Because you have it here. You have it here. And it exists to a degree everywhere, but it's a disgrace that this community is that way. And many people use the name Corpus Christi, which means body of Christ. And in Scripture, there's the city of Jerusalem. And I've talked about how that's contrasted with the New Jerusalem, which is a church, the city of God. But if you read the writings of the apostles, even John in the book of Revelation, The Jerusalem which is below is referred natural city of man. Okay? It's theological thing is referred to as Sodom and Egypt, meaning in the first century, though many prophecy teachers today put such a high thing on Jerusalem, okay? The natural city and rebuilding the temple, but yet the apostles in the New Testament, when they were speaking of natural Jerusalem, they used terms that some say were anti-Semitic. They were so negative toward the earthly city. But the reason was, it's theological reason. And the mistake that many have made, many good preachers and all, they've looked at like, and I've done this myself, but that was a mistake. They said the city of Corpus Christi, talking about all of this system that you've heard me comment on, they said it's got a great calling. No, the people of God, the heavenly Corpus Christi does indeed have a great calling. But that was a mistake a lot of good men, even myself, had made in the past, thinking this natural city somehow is, this natural city is wicked and it's corrupt. And the apostles in the New Testament said the same thing about earthly Jerusalem at their time. The natural city was the city that stayed in the old law at that time. They spoke negatively about it. And I begin to see, you say you're seeing too much negative. What I'm seeing is how these things, and I had personal experience with friends of mine, they never were telling on the cops. But like, how come he could get away with a certain thing? Officers. Or how did they do that? Or when this officer assaulted me and everybody knew it, it was no secret. And then the other cops were like, oh, we'll see if we can find him. Like kids in high school. I consider that a disgrace. Any department that had good supervision in it would have never allowed that damn Rosas case to happen. Nor would they have allowed officers that crossed the line multiple times to continue to have crossed that line. And many departments, those men got fired for some of the things they did. But that did not happen in Corpus Christi. And you had the same thing with this court system there. Many of the comments on Peñalas, some said, he's such an arrogant, such and such and such and such. But they knew, they were from around this region even longer than I had been here. And it makes me mad to see. And to see, I used to like the way the Color Times, because I try to advocate. Even minister friends of mine think they don't agree with me that I speak out on issues. And I think when I read that article, and I read it a while ago, and I still remembered it, I thought they disgraced any good thing that they felt they could do. And I felt race played a role in it because they were like backing up. Maybe someone that came from the area rose to the judgeship, which would be a great thing. But I saw them cover for that because that was not proper advocacy for the people that were injured by the wrecks and then some of these other things. I was even not wanting to tell you that just so happened that's what the Celis thing was, which I mentioned. And it was using authority he didn't have to try to get a naked woman to maybe come back. I think it said she was in a hot tub or something. But that's like a parable of this whole discussion. I don't think if all of the other things are true, and I have other ways that, people that are working on the street as hookers, those types of people are not interested in making sworn affidavits about anything. Even the lady I mentioned about the flea market that got shot by the cops, I mentioned that the other day, right? She didn't want, I told her, I do videos, dear. You want us to do little video? And you know what she told me, that lady? And that did happen. That case happened. That got shot by PD. She said, John, they gave me trouble for so many years after that. For many years after that, they harassed her. Maybe just following her and all this kind of shit. And she said, I'm finally now they finally let it go. I guess those officers felt they should have charged that lady, and Tom Greenwald felt no, that was an early case of discuss. I hate to see the public like that. I hate to see putting up a plaque of someone because of their position did a lot of bad things. And even the ones that, if all the other ones were not true, but more than likely they are, just the ones that we knew and documented, you could see. You could see. Those were not victimless crimes. Those men were injured very severely. And I don't know how many children, and it was made light of, because they felt like, because of authority, that man got away with bad stuff. And I'll tell you, this place is corrupt to the core. This place is corrupt to the core. I'll ask the question. Judge Banyalis, have you been involved in any discussions ever with colluding with drug cartels, illegal activity, or possibly putting a hit out on another person? Have you ever done anything of that nature? You say, how dare you ask me? You're supposed to be a servant of the public, sir. That's what you're supposed to be. And you're known in this area. They said, arrogant such and such, case. And I thought, why? And even some of the other people that you thought didn't mind that they had to do certain things, they resented it. They resented it.